some, you know, by some chance we have too much to talk about, we'll just do part 1 and part 2. It's okay.
I'm here for it.
You know what I mean? Like taking the pressure off from the beginning because there are so many directions we can go, you know, over all connected to our relationship, the many facets of our relationship over the years, which I love. So I'll just, you know, lead us in and then you know, I'll do a little tiny lead in and then you can shortly introduce yourself and then we can just we can continue, really. So, welcome back to Self Care is My Job. I'm Samantha Long. I am a self care coach with a focus on somatics and helping you get inside your body a little bit closer to your truth, your authentic expression in life, and the part of you that is ready to very intentionally take care of yourself every single day. And I have a lot in common with my guest today because she helps people do a lot of the same thing in different ways. So this is Heather Nieves. We have been connected for quite so many years. We have even had conversations before on this very podcast, long, long ago. And Heather, I'm only going to say in relation to myself who you are to me, and then you can intro yourself to the rest of the listeners. But Heather Nieves is my personal trainer and my wellness coach, and I am so happy to have her in my life. She holds me accountable. She checks in gently and in the most nurturing way possible, which is exactly what I need. Um, I have grown in ways I wasn't quite sure that I could since beginning my work with her approximately 12 to 13 weeks ago. And I'm eternally grateful. And so, yeah, Heather, just give us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we'll just continue.
Thank you. Yes. So, Heather Nieves, founder of I Love Me Yoga and Fitness. And yoga is still very much a part of my work, but while there are yoga classes that I schedule for my clients in addition to strength training, you as a yoga teacher know that yoga is beyond the mat. And so we have affirmation meditations to be reminded of this is who I am and this is what I do so that we can become consistent and we can keep promises to ourselves. And that's where the yoga comes in. And when we remember the importance of the strength and the benefits of mental health and physical health beyond achieving the physique, which is also okay. I've been speaking to that as well. If you also want to change the way you look, we're coming at it with so much more support instead of 15, 20 years ago when we were just chasing skinny. Now we focus on strength and energy and mental health with a side of I also want to feel and look my best. So I am a virtual personal trainer and also a mother of two, a wife. Gosh, my husband and I have known each other for 21 years now, married like 3/4 of that time. We're not going to focus on math right now, but I am in South Carolina and I have a 3-year-old and a 10-year-old. And so I've been online for probably a decade and a half, if not longer, and it has shifted, but it has always been in a form of supporting women. And it's been in a form of self-care. So I am so honored to be back here talking about self-care in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have kind of spanned, both of us have kind of like spanned our modalities and expanded into different regions of self care. I think that I would love, like, I love that you know, made sure you brought in the yoga piece and the fact that even in your intro and, you know, as much as you, you know, are like so skilled at providing this detailed plan for diet and workout and all of this, like it's so important even to me, even as a yoga instructor who can obviously, like, that piece I can incorporate on my own. It already is happening weekly as I'm teaching and all of that. But the yoga that's happening off the mat that you mentioned, right? Your connection to yourself, your alignment of body and mind is part of what's going to keep you connected to yourself and connected to your goals. And so when you mentioned at the very beginning of this journey that we're on together now, of this is who, the mantra of this is who I am now. Sometimes they're going to hit and sometimes they won't. That one hit for me. And it's been on loop in my head ever since, because it really is like this really perfect little snapshot nutshell of that concept that you again keep bringing up too, of like habit stacking and like actually changing like the patterning of what we're doing. And so that's been, no surprise on my end, just sort of like being, me and geeking out on like the physiology part of it and like sort of like the patterning part of it. Like that's been my favorite part of this journey, is witnessing myself shifting and changing. And this has been one of those, probably just over time, I've just gotten so maybe sometimes overly conscious of like what's going on internally. But I've actually really enjoyed using this as an opportunity to watch myself expand and grow and shift and change. And what I mean specifically by that is that I was having such a hard time prioritizing working out. And
Well, I
so,
can speak to that in your
yeah,
transformation if it's okay to jump in.
yep.
The original voice note that you sent me was, I'm interested in working with you, but I need someone there with me. Otherwise, I will not be successful at this. And your story was, you were very attached to that. And so originally I felt that like, ooh, is this going to work out?
Mm.
Was my initial reaction. And I do not offer that on a regular basis, as far as a full 30 to 60 minute, I'm present with you while you're working out, I'm encouraging you, I'm pushing you. That's a different type of training, right? And so we did that once and you really pushed yourself, and then I pulled back and you showed yourself what you were capable of. And that has been so beautiful to witness, because you decided to let go of that story and you're like, I have these goals and this is what I want, and I have not tried in a way that you're leading me because I was attached to this story. So sometimes we get so attached to old behaviors or just storylines. I can't do this if I don't have this. And then we box ourselves with these stories. So you so beautifully let go of that and showed up. And then life had some challenges, but you still showed up. And sometimes we get into this habit of, oh, I only did once a week. Well, once a week is better than 0 times a week, considering what life puts on your plate sometimes. And then the next week, it was like, I'm craving this. So then there was 2 times, and then there was 3 times. And then you're excited about these recipes that you're preparing for your family. And then, your husband is being more mindful in the kitchen because he needs to prioritize his health. So as women, as mothers, we truly lead our families. And it's so incredible when I see women like you deciding to say, I matter, because we pour into our families so selflessly. It is a duty. It is something that we love. It is something that it comes natural. But then there comes a point where I see women where it starts to wear on us and we're not filling our cup, right? We're not putting the self-care on that list or at the very end of the list if there's time. And then we are no longer fulfilled and we are no longer in our responsibility in love and joy. And so seeing women like you say, I want to do something differently. And then you've made these changes over 90 days, and then you commit to another 90 days because the transformation in 6 months, wait till you see. Like, I'm so excited, especially with the weather warming up. And like you said, we talk about habit stacking. That this is not an overnight transformation, and I do not promise that. I do not want you to live my lifestyle that I've been living a lot longer than you overnight, because you will fail. So I want to set you up for success. So I ask my clients, how are you living? Let's find out what is working well for you and what isn't, and let's slowly make the changes. One of my clients is drinking more water, and it's the greatest thing in the world. And I agree 1,000%. And walking more steps than she used to, right? And that's not the same amount of steps that I walk, but I didn't start walking 10,000 steps right away. I refused to track my steps, by the way. It was one
Which
more
is
thing
me.
that I could not it was one more thing that I did not have the capacity to also track. And then I found myself eventually wanting to. And it just all starts to happen. And some people might not want to hear this, but it might take you a year or
Mhm.
2 years or 3 years. But that's the beauty, is if you look at the timeline and celebrate the things that have changed, you realize you are growing, you are shifting, and some things take longer than others, especially if you're taking care of other little humans in the process.
Mm, totally. I have a very loud inner critic, much like probably most of the people we know. And so this is not like news, but it's certainly not to me. But I don't think we have the opportunity to get like to really hear that inner critic dialogue in a way that is like actually helpful, that we could actually like kind of pull away from it and like pull it off of us a little bit, unless we do two things. First of all, we need to find ways to regulate our nervous system, because that is what actually builds that space, that window of tolerance, that space that you could actually not be triggered by that like emotional response of your inner critic coming in and being like, well, you skipped the workout today. Good job, Sam. You know, like, if we can't regulate, then we're actually stuck on loop because we can't make space between us and that. So that's one, which is, thank God I have been, ferociously dedicated to that work for many, many years. And, but, once we have that space, you have the ability to actually hear it and have the space to do the reframe. Or even, sit with it for a minute and let the emotion that is around that actually play itself out. Like, maybe you really need to have a good cry about how mean that voice is, right? Um, but here's what I really want to say about that process. I don't think you have I don't think you really give yourself the real opportunity to unlock from it in a meaningful way until you also kind of override that shit and just do the friggin' thing
Mhm.
that your mind is telling you, whether it is, look, you fell off, you missed a couple workouts. Oh, well, screw the week then. The week is effed. Let's just move on and start over next week. And then what happens, right? Then, and this is my own personal experience that I battle continually. When that happens, and then it's like, oh, well, who's to say the same thing isn't going to happen next week? And so now you're on a cycle, right? So that's like my own personal experience. But um, when you override that, you're literally physiologically changing the patterning, because you just actually prove to yourself, whether it is, an inner critic situation or about something you didn't do, or maybe it's something totally different. Maybe it's like just, literally a fear around doing something for the very first time that you feel is, not in your general realm or whatever. there is a little bit of override that needs to happen. You need to be like, I'm gonna just do it anyway. Like, shusha. I'm gonna just do it anyway. I think at one point I was even rationalizing on my end, and I was like, I think I'm gonna go to hot yoga today. I'm feeling some kind of way. And you were like, or, or you could just do the workout that I already sent you. That's on your phone. That's gonna take you 40 minutes and it'll be done. And you don't have to go anywhere.
But it's as if you already knew because you like were like you almost reached out quote unquote for
Yes.
permission to
Yes.
go to this class, permission
Exactly.
not to do the workout, right?
Right.
But
Right.
you already knew like this is part of the program. Let me follow the plan. And
And
that's
let me
where
feel supported by you. Like, just I want to let you finish what you were about to say, but just mentioning that, right? Like having the support of a person like you, that's where the shift is able to happen. Those moments. The fact that I was able to message you and you were able to hold me accountable or just hold space for the experience that I was having, we can't really like mobilize from that kind of like shitty moment, right? Unless we have support and we feel seen, right? And we feel held a bit and also held accountable. Like, yeah, but
yeah, I have learned because coaches have coaches. I am a human being, and without accountability, our human nature wants to keep us safe and the same and comfortable, which means doing what we've always done, not holding ourselves to the higher standard, which is what coaches do. We don't hire coaches to validate that our current behavior that hasn't been working is okay to continue. We hire coaches to call us higher, to remind us, hey, you asked me to hold you to a higher standard. And that's what I'm here to do. So I've been given some tough love from my coach, especially recently. She's like, well, you said this is your goal. Is that still your goal or is this your new goal? Because we need to get clear because I need to change your whole plan if that's not your goal anymore. But just a reminder, your goal was this. And I think you're going to still want to do it, but let me know. So also with our mind, sitting with the emotions, recognizing them. I believe in that. But also, there's a time where we need to take action before we even give the mind time to talk ourselves out of it. So, just as simply put as a body in motion stays in motion, like the action of, I don't really want to do this, but I'm going to do it because I said I was going to. And I know that it's good for me. It's like being a freaking adult. Put your big girl panties on and do the thing that's uncomfortable because it's going to make me feel better. And after every workout, how do we feel? No one ever regrets it. Is it like, oh my God, that was so hard? That kicked my butt? Sure. But we have more energy and then we're stronger. And then we slowly start to see, our body transforming, which is the coolest thing to see what our body is capable of. So there's that, just whether we love or hate the concept of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take action, it works.
Yeah, I have I have been vocal about how I'm not that huge a fan of Mel Robbins. But I have said those exact same words before also where I'm like, well, sometimes it actually kind of needs to happen. And again, this is coming from the trauma informed coach inside of me who's like, I genuinely do want you to hold space for the parts of yourself that are having a really hard time. I do, because until those parts are recognized, they're going to continue to come and block you. But at the same time, a lot of that is programming, and it is running literally a program up here. It's like on loop, and it's trying to protect you. So sometimes you have to, like you said, you got to mobilize before that gets louder, and then it's overridden. You know, it's the same thing as when we want to start big projects or start businesses. or whatever it is, and there is, or an idea comes through you shining, right? And then 5 seconds later, the other thought comes in and is like, that ain't gonna work, or whatever it is, right? We kind of have to learn how to be with that initial impulse before it gets swept away by all of the thoughts. And the only reason I'm bringing that up is because I want to bring it to like the positivity practice that comes within this process that you continuously encourage of like, and recognizing your wins essentially and focusing on that. Like my brand of that is settling into the glimmer moments, the moments where you feel good. Even if it's that, you know, like simply like, okay, like I just did the big exhale in the middle of the day, you know, the big exhale where you're like, you know, like, and you just had that pause. Whether it's as simple as that or like you're, you know, watching your kids get along and play and not fight. And it's like this warm and fuzzy moment. And you really settle into that. Those glimmer moments, you know, insert the wins, the moments where you really feel proud of yourself. You feel proud of your growth. How often do you have that moment where you actually feel proud of your growth and then you bring in some shit right over it about something you didn't do and squash it down, or you move on to the next thing. You're like, oh, okay, cool, I did that. Next thing that I have to accomplish or fix. So that's, you know, like those are in the same basket of just like how important that is to get into the practice of letting it settle. And like, so yeah, like have there been, I am, you know, working out 3 days a week with your program on average. There have been weeks that I only get in 2. There have been weeks like when I was on vacation and I also felt like crap even though I was on vacation, that I just couldn't do it at all. But that being said, there are other, you know, there are weeks where I get it done and I feel good about that. There are weeks where I'm way more intentional now about what I'm eating. And I, like you said, I will send you photos or updates. Like even this morning I had, I'm like, who am I? I had I made turkey burgers last night, which I never make. Like that is a first. Maybe it's a second. It is probably so long ago because they were so dry and not appealing that I haven't never done it again. But I made them and I was intentional about how I made them. I looked up a recipe. I was like, how do I make this where I'm gonna like it and that it's got extra protein in it? And this morning for breakfast, I had a turkey burger with an egg and spinach on it. And I'm like, who am I? But it was really freaking good. And I will let myself sit in those moments and be cheesy and take a picture and send it to you and maybe throw it in my stories and be like, who am I? And sometimes I really do have to bring the humor in it too, because again, for me, that's how I let things settle. Even the hard moments, right? Where I'm like, really, Sam? Like, what is going on with you?
Well, as
You know?
women, we can be highly critical. As Virgos, we hold others to a high standard, so we hold ourselves to a higher standard. So, learning this from my coaches, for myself, for my clients, because I am very hard on myself. So, this is something that I'm practicing on a regular basis. So, when I see my clients winning like this and celebrating, like I completed the whole entire workout last week. And that was such a win because you recognized, hey, I'm only going to do 2 out of 4, or I'm only going to do 3 out of 4 rounds, or I'm only going to do 2 sets instead of 3 sets. Those are not fails. Those are wins, right? Because 2 sets over 0 sets is better. And we slowly build our endurance, and we slowly build our strength, and we slowly build our attention span to hold space for the entire workout when it's not something that you're used to doing. And to be honest, sometimes you don't love it. Sometimes you don't love it. That's why I encourage you all to put on your favorite music and find a way to become empowered because we know the importance of our muscle health, our bone health. These are very important exercises that we are doing for our overall well-being that we might not want to do, but we brush our teeth. So we're going to need to start strength training, especially, it doesn't matter what your age is. You should be strength training, but over 30, over 40, over 50, do not be afraid of those weights. And so you're celebrating doing full planks, getting off your knees. I have a client, she brought snacks to a party for the first time in her life. She made her yogurt with honey and a couple of chocolate chips. And she said the exact same words as you just said. Who am I? Right? Another woman said, I'm eating so many vegetables. And she grabbed the salad before the pizza, and her husband looked twice at her and couldn't believe that she was craving that. And this is who I am. This is what I do. It's becoming a normal thing. And we are not on diets. We are nourishing our bodies with lots and lots of food. Being on a calorie deficit, you can still eat tons of food if you choose high volume foods, because I do not want my clients to starve. I certainly don't starve. We get to fuel our bodies with whole foods. We get to nourish our bodies. They feel better. They're fueled better. It helps with recovery. And so cooking more, lasting a few minutes longer in each exercise for the whole bandwidth of the exercise, walking a little more. And, I have clients that are resting a little more. I'm resting more than I used to. I'm actually working out less now than I used to, and I'm getting better results, if that even makes sense. So we all just have to follow what's best for our bodies. And it takes experimentation to find that out. So many people quit because what they were doing didn't quote unquote work. However, challenging that is, how long did you follow it for? Were you at the tip of getting results, but you were seeking instant gratification, so you quit? So that plan may have worked. You just didn't stick to it long enough. And then there's a willingness to say, okay, well, my attention span wasn't there. Maybe my attention span could be here. I'm going to challenge someone to still stick with the original program. I had a personal trainer I thought I wanted to hire, which I still would love to work with her to this day, but she challenged me to ask me, why wouldn't I stay with my current trainer at the time? Because I was getting results. What was I chasing? So,
interesting.
Yeah, like to stick with the program to the end.
Right. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But also, yeah, it is that sort of dedication and that, like conscious leading it through, like seeing it through, where you're like, yeah, am I seeking something else? Right. I love that so much. I love that you also brought up the fact that you were, working out less, but actually like seeing better results. And as much as like part of me is like, tell me how, like for, I think most people, it is also like, okay, well, I just need to get to like the level where I'm like doing the thing. And I want to say too about like skipping sets and then like, my eventual, journey towards actually like sticking with it, and the boredom piece that you brought up too. Like that happens to me. Like you're speaking to all my little pain points right now. And the music is so helpful. Like actually I think it's sort of become a ritual at this point, as much as a ritual could be. Like it's on its way to becoming a ritual, I would say. And music is a part of it because I get to come down here and put some shit on loud. And like, which is part of why, as I'm working out, sometimes my workouts go a little long because sometimes I might need to break into a dance party in the middle because I'm a little excited about my playlist. And like, so be it. I got to reel it in at some point. But like, so be it, because if that's what's going to keep me engaged, then that's what I got to do. And for this highly ADHD women's brain that I have going on, I absolutely need that dopamine. I need it to be where it's like not just some arbitrary thing that was sent to me and I'm just hitting it and I'm following it. It's also part of why I said to you what I said in the very beginning. Like I need that human connection for accountability, because if it's just an online course or if I'm just sent a whole bunch of videos, I don't have that, right? Of course, there are things that we can do to make it a little bit more appealing and a little bit more of that connection for ourselves. We have to find that. We have to figure out like what is going to be the thing. For me, yes, like I went in and I'm still in this process, but I think what like if I really slow down and think about what is happening inside of me when I actually mobilize to get down here and do the thing versus move on to the next task, it's becoming like, oh yeah, let me take out time for myself right now. Like this is me time. I get to put on my music. I get to, like escape from everything else. It's an intentional break. Like I'm the busiest professionally that I have ever been in my life right now. And somehow I am simultaneously doing this work at the same time, which I think is, like whatever, call me crazy, or maybe it's like all meant
That's
to
the
be.
best time.
Right?
That's the
Like,
best
exactly.
time.
Yeah.
Because if you can make it work now, the rest is a piece of cake.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's never a perfect time.
No.
We will always make an excuse as to why we can't. But you didn't choose that. You chose, okay, I'm going to find a way.
Yeah. And I felt the need, to be supported, to support myself during this extremely busy time. And you know what? It reminds me of a couple other things I wanted to mention. Why now? Like, actually, that's on your intake form. The very first fucking question is, why now? I went back and looked at it, I think. And, again, that's part of it. Like, oh, I am going into like, and this isn't like just for a period of time. Like, I have this huge endeavor of starting a nonprofit and potentially having a space within the next 6 months to a year and bringing on a team and managing these projects and events and all of these things like that I'm so excited to do. But mentally and physically, it is not going to be a walk in the park. I need very intentional, set, conscious self-care plans here. Otherwise, I will absolutely burn out. Why do I know that? Because it's happened to me before. Like, I had to experience that to know how important this is. But the other part of it is, and this is not to go into like, oh, I'm getting old. I don't do that game. But I am at a different phase physiologically and hormonally in my body than I was before. And teaching yoga a couple times a week, for example, is not giving me the amount of movement and other that will sustain me. That is not going to sustain me anymore. My muscles and my bones need more of everything. So as women, yeah, we get into a point where it's like, oh, no. Like, there's a reason why you feel that way. There are practices that you got to incorporate here.
So that's the wisdom and the beauty that comes with as we get older. It's not, oh, I'm old, but now I have gotten this wisdom that comes with getting older to say, I'm willing to prioritize this. And then I wanted to speak to having a plan and psychologically, how it offers us freedom. Because if you were to maybe do something 2 to 3 times a week, the decision, mental energy that it would have to be put forth to decide what workouts am I going to do if you decided to go on YouTube or elsewhere, scrolling, right? Decision making, okay. To be able to show up and do the thing, right? And it may or may not work, right? Is Having a movement practice important? Absolutely. Is something better than nothing? Absolutely. Is having a specific plan to support your goals the best way to get results? 1000%. And you say, okay, on Tuesday at 12 o'clock, I'm going into my basement, and all I have to do is pick up the app, press play on the workout that Heather scheduled for me, and do the thing, right? 30 to 45 minutes or 30 to 60 minutes, whatever it is that was assigned for the day, less decision making required, less mental fatigue. Layering that is following a meal plan, right? That is, all right, I'm going to food prep. I'm going to follow the plan so that it's not every single day I show up. The amount of energy to cook the food, to think about what you're going to buy, what you're going to make, as women, as having a career, as mothers, as wives, as just human beings, the amount of decisions that we have to make on a daily basis can become mentally exhausting. And it is normal and makes so much sense why we choose the easier option, the comforting option, because the brain does not want to have to make as much effort at that point. So by putting forth the 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes once or twice a week, meal planning or batching, so that you, and then when you do go to eat, it's like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to eat. And maybe you do decide to cook more often than that. It's still less decision making than you were doing before, which was 7 times 3, 21 meals a week. Plus or minus, right? Some people they make eat leftovers, but that becomes mentally taxing. And so following the plan, having a trainer, it supports us mentally. And then you're going to come closer to your results, because it is the most frustrating thing to say, I'm showing up, but I'm not getting results. But if you're just going about it here and there, it makes so much sense. So there's so much power in structure, and a lot of us, I even resisted it for a long time, and I had to let my ego down and become coachable and understand why would we want to create more decision making for ourselves, especially as women, especially as moms. No, it's like, oh, you figure it out tonight, right? Of course,
Right.
that's like one of our phrases, at least in my house. I'm like, nope, not cooking today. It's all you. I'm going to go eat my prepped meal because, I'm practical and I'm not going to waste anything. I don't care if I ate it for 5 days in a row. Um, and then that leads to having a different perspective about food. Do we want it to be delicious? Absolutely. But food is fuel.
Yeah.
Food is fuel. Can it taste delicious? Absolutely. But is it going to be the most magical, seasoned experience? 21 meals a week? It can be. How much effort are you willing to put forth toward that? Can we simplify it and just nourish our bodies some of the time and just let it provide for our body, and then we can thank it and direct it?
Yeah.
That is definitely okay too.
Right. And so many of us are also up against, back to patterning, right? Like we're up against repeating the potential to just be repeating everything that we learned growing up, everything that was modeled for us in diet. And there's like, a lighter layer of that, which is just simply cooking heavier meals, less nutrient dense meals. I was lucky enough to grow up in a house where my mom, even though she worked every day, she cooked a homemade meal every single day. And a lot of the time it was chicken cutlets, mashed potatoes, things like that. Luckily, pretty low on the processed food side. And because she actually is an amazing cook, so it would be something simple like that, or all the way up to some type of like delicious Italian meal. However, a lot of it is comfort food, and so you have that layer of like making those same meals And then also like what's going on your plate, like how much protein, how much starch, how much vegetables. Like, like most of us grew up and it was like a bit, like maybe like the largest portion of the protein, medium would be like the starch or the pasta, and then like a little bit of vegetables. Um, just kind of like what are the patterns we're repeating here? It's really hard. Even eating late for me, we always ate a little bit later. And so I always made dinner in this household only up until like maybe 6 months ago. I was cooking around 6 or 6:30. And then, like I started off at 6 and then I got busier and it went to 6:30. And then all of a sudden it would be 7:45 and I hadn't started cooking yet. And what are we doing now? Ordering takeout. So there's that. And like for me over the last 6 months, I have made the conscious effort to start cooking way earlier. Sometimes it's like irrational, quote unquote, seems out of place or off to cook at 3:30 as soon as we get back from pickup. And I make sure that they get fed before they go to their evening activities. But like, that's the window. That's what I got. That's what we're doing. So, okay, so they eat at 4:45. That's what's going to happen. So, my point is we have to notice those, kind of like unproductive patterns. We have to notice them first before we're like willing to be like, is this serving me? Like, is this actually serving me? The other piece of that, as far as diet, like I said, comfort food, but a lot of us were taught to eat like as a form of self-soothing. And of course, we're like nutrient deprived, right? Nutrient deprived. So like, it's either like I'm super stressed, so I'm going to dive into the pizza or the pasta first before I go to the salad because it's going to soothe my soul right now. It's going to give me all that those cozies and like de-stress me. It's going to, there's a long line we can go down on what happens there. But a lot of those patterns we were taught too. They were modeled to us. So we have to
100%
become
same.
conscious of it. Yeah.
Patterns passed down to us, right? That's why all of us, our journeys look different because we did not all grow up the same. And some of us in certain generations grew up similarly. I did not grow up with the kind of home cooked meals. Everything was super easy and a lot more processed. So I didn't really cook for a really long time in my life. So cooking as much as I cook now is mind blowing to me. I bake my own sourdough. Like, who am I? I used to buy pre-chopped vegetables and eat out all the time. And, on the other side of that is living in a world of convenience. And so we live in such a privileged world where we have a million opportunities not to cook, to quote unquote treat ourselves. And that is being presented to us as an act of self-love. Oh, you deserve that, iced coffee out there with 10 pumps of syrup in it, because it's the holidays and you're stressed out. And this act of self-love is about treating ourselves and regulating through food and alcohol instead of understanding that it is an act of self-love to keep that promise to yourself saying, I said I wasn't going to have that, but I deserve it, right? But it's no, I said I was going to start nourishing my body differently. I said I was going to start cooking. Is it hard? 100%. Sometimes I think to myself, wow, you spend so much time working out, exercising, tracking food, but this should be normal.
Yeah.
Because this is how important my health is. And someone might look at it as obsessed. I mean, it's also my career. So I also apply it so that I can teach it confidently and walk the walk and not just talk the talk. But it also, like, this should be normal. Spending this amount of time, I'm choosing my priorities. And my priorities are looking different than a lot of the world because we are being shoved convenience and love in the form of things that are actually harming us. And so it's just recognizing that and saying, this is how you've been comforting yourself. Let's choose acts of self-love and create new habits and patterns. Because let me tell you, you are a walking example of holy Can I say shit? Holy shit.
Really?
Holy shit. Like, I just did that, right? And the confidence that comes when we actually do the thing we said we were going to do. It is not deprivation. That drink, that food, it'll be there next time. I have chocolate every day. I tell my clients, enjoy things that you like, but take what you need first. But if you're enjoying what you like very often and you are not meeting your goals, there is going to be a period of time that you're going to have to say no a little bit longer than usual in order to meet your goals. And holding yourself to a higher standard, doing something that you've never done before is so liberating, and it shows us our capacity, and it's empowering. So that's where, like, on Instagram recently, I changed my title to accountability and empowerment coach. That's my style of personal training, because we need both of them. We need both of them. And I'm walking right here with you, I'm walking right here with you.
Thank goodness for that. There's one piece that I want to make sure we touch on. And as you're talking about that, I'm like thinking to myself, like, this is clearly cycle breaking shit, right? We are changing we're changing those patterns, and that's what is being modeled for our kids. So like, I know there have been, like, again, those are some of my glimmer moments when I'm like noticing that my kids are being more conscious what they're putting in their bodies. I can't say that either one of them are jumping for joy when I come down to work out, but they're watching me do it. So it's like, and they're watching me do all the things. They've been watching me practice yoga for years. They've been watching me go to therapy for years. Like, they know what we're doing. My daughter has her own therapist. Like, we are not going to do this tiptoe around it shit. Self-care is hard, but it's literally the most important thing that we could be doing. So we're painting that picture, and we're portraying for them what is important. For example, Aria will often ask me, did you scan that? Because I'll use the Yucca app to, whether it's Yucca, I'm not sure, to scan anything that is technically processed, just to get a read, on how bad it is. And if it's not excellent on that app, she's really not interested. And it's tricky because with the kids, I mean, I am more than happy to stick with a whole foods diet. I can, on my own, please, I can do it purely. When you have children, so she's a little bit easier. Ollie, for me, my 7-year-old, he's picky, and so he could live on French fries and chicken nuggets, like the typical stuff, right? He's also hormone indeficient, so I have this piece that's always like, oh my God, like, I need to make sure that he gets lots of calcium, lots of protein, just all of the nutrients that he needs to grow, while at the same time being like, but this is all you eat. So at a certain point, I just have to be realistic about what can I get in you, you know what I mean? But at the same time, he eats lots of fruits and vegetables. And so I have those moments where I'm like, thank God, because I remember like sitting on the couch and like eating a whole bag of chips as a kid and thinking nothing of it.
100%.
Right. So
I
I'm sure that you've
definitely,
experienced the same, right, with your kids.
I've definitely had moments where I remember, like, my mom and I just finishing off all 3 rows of Oreos together, watching a show, like the entire package together. And, my mom did her best with what she knew. But I don't ever remember seeing her. She went to Curves maybe for a short period of my
I
life
remember
ever.
Curves. Oh my Lord.
And so that was maybe a small snippet of my upbringing that I remember. But
Yeah.
the moments where my kids ask me to like race them are those glimmers for me. And I'm like, thank goodness. And then when my daughter, who's 3, needs me to carry her, I piggyback her all the time. And I'm like, my goodness, damn, thank goodness your mom is strong.
Yeah.
And now my 10-year-old wants to compete with me and actually tries to get his friends to do push-up competitions with me.
Good luck.
Which is hilarious. However, like I'll do the monkey bars with him at the playground, and that's
Those are
so
hard.
cool. It is hard,
Monkey
but
bars. That's
it
full Ronnie
feels
right there.
cool and fun
Yeah.
to do these things with my kids. So I definitely have those glimmers. I did, at home workouts when my son was little. I definitely, dieted in a much lower calorie program than I probably should have. I wasn't guided properly, but I also created a lot of really healthy patterns at that time. And I was talking with my husband about this morning about just the past 2 decades of my life and the things I've done that have led me to be where I am today and who I am and how I am. And it's a reminder that people see me and think, oh, that must be so easy for her. But I mean, I remember stepping into a gym in my early 20s for the first time of my life and, wanting to lose weight before my wedding and gaining it all back afterwards, because I didn't know what I was doing. And then, trying Zumba and becoming obsessed with that and trying like Jillian Michaels workouts at home and Insanity and, finding my rhythm among certain things. But I've always been, I have energy and I've always been determined to, I guess, figure it out. And I think after children, it just becomes a very different experience and we're living in very different bodies. And now knowing that I'm done with children, um, it's really exciting to have a very different focus. Like I do have a physique goal with my coaches, but I also have a strength goal to do pull-ups without a band. And those are freaking hard. But I also did like 5 pull-ups with the band the other day instead of 4, like I had done for the first couple of weeks. And so strength is happening and I'm getting some really cool back gains. But seeing your body transform and our children witnessing the healthy habits is so liberating and it's very comforting, like knowing that we've broken cycles. And I'm gonna run our third 5K together in 2 months with my 10-year-old, and that I never did with my parents growing up. Don't love running, but I'm willing to do it as a bonding experience with my son.
Definitely. Definitely. Anything we can do that's like kind of like double team quality time and self-care are those, even if it's just a walk or a hike, like those are the moments for me where I'm like, okay, like they get it. They're like, I mean, I'll tell you right now, we never went on a hike. I'm gonna tell you right now. Growing up, I was like, I don't know when that was. It was long after college that I even had like a hike, like us here in northern New Jersey, which there happens to be absolutely friggin' phenomenal places to hike up here, which you wouldn't even know. So yeah, we're doing the work. There are so many facets of this, and I just want to thank you again for being my support system when it comes to a whole new realm of self-care. Not completely untapped, but clearly there is a need for us to reach out and seek the support that we need. Like you said several times, coaches have coaches for a reason because we understand, value, and acknowledge the need for that. We need, on so many levels, like you said, empowerment and accountability. Those are 2 huge pieces where it's like, I need to actually be locked into somebody if I have goals, somebody's got to be there. And granted, yes, can we have friends help us with that? Totally. But some of us have to also be really strategic and reevaluate our circles. If your friends are the people who are going to have 6 or 7 drinks when they go out, and you really only want to have one because you're trying to make changes in your life, that's, it's just one example of many ways where a lot of times, no, we cannot depend on our circle to be our accountability. Absolutely not. There are many reasons why. So that's all I want to say is not only thank you, but for the people who are listening to this, support is available to you. You feel like you need to make changes, but you can't do it alone because laundry list, enter laundry list here. Yeah, there's a reason because, you need support to do that. So is there anything else you want to say before we get off and move on. I want to make sure I give you one last moment of spotlight.
I appreciate you saying that. I mean, in-person support matters, but online support can be extremely helpful as well. I think both are important. We are living in a world where so many things are digital. And we can, especially if you were in a season of life, like I am in a season of life where going to the gym is going to be so much harder than me just buckling down and figuring out at home. Does it take longer some days because of distractions? Yes, but would is it that much harder to leave the house, to go do the workout, to get someone to watch my child, to come back home? It requires just a different effort, and it's totally possible and doable. So online support communities, we became friends online, and I think that's just so beautiful. Most of my clients I've not just, gotten overnight. These are women that have been following me for years that said, okay, I want to work with Heather one-on-one. And then I have women in my programs that are not one-on-one. I have a body weight only program, I Love My Body 1.0, and then now I'm launching I Love My Body 2.0 in the middle of March, which will have some dumbbells and some resistance bands. And I'm there providing suggestions, ideas, accountability at a different level, but that's a more affordable option when someone wants to work with me than one-on-one, because one-on-one we're customizing based on what you have on at home, based on your current goals. It's a longer term commitment, 90 days to 6 months. And everyone is different on the support that they are seeking. So it's been really beautiful to be able to offer these options to women so that they can either, when they go to the gym, have some structure, or be able to figure it out and make it work from home, because it's absolutely possible and doable. And I think more and more of us have gotten comfortable being at home and making it our sanctuary and having these rituals at home. And then we can still go cultivate these healthy relationships in real life. We can, pay attention to who's influencing us and now influence them because of our healthy habits that we're creating from home, and really showing others what's possible.
Yeah. I mean, it's been amazing working with you online. And the thing about it is there are certain things that we can lean into for convenience. The fact that we can do things like this virtually, and then, like you said, be in person for different types of relationships and different types of interactions. But like when it comes to the type of support that coaching on many facets can offer, that online coaching is, let's make it convenient. Put it inside of your house, put it inside of your own schedule, where it works for you, because we didn't even tap into this, but we all have the barrier at times of, I don't have time. Okay, well, take the commute out. Like, that's step one, and that's a whole conversation. But I thank you again for this conversation. I feel like we could have several of these, which who knows, maybe we will. I wanted to say too, I was thinking that if you are listening to this and there are questions, I'm assuming you're okay with this, Heather. There are questions that came up and there are things that were sparked. I'm going to obviously have our contact information in the description of this video and even of the podcast episodes. So reach out, because I feel like we tapped into a lot of topics that are like those barrier conversations to getting the thing done. And so like if one of those things or more, you're like, it me, like, let's talk about it, because I just feel like it's the only way that we're going to encourage women to make those changes. You're wonderful the way you are, but we all have that. I want more. So what is it? Let us help you. Again, love you so much. The fact that we met online makes me happy. Again, that's a testament to the online, the convenience and the beauty of being able to reach out and find those people that you need and you want in your life. So, yes, my beautiful friend, thank you so much for joining us on Self Care is My Job. And we will see you all very soon.
Thank you.
I'm doing this.